Now on the Business RadioX network, it's the Self-Aware Leader Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Self-Aware Leader Podcast, where we sit down twice a month with successful executives and talk to them about their leadership philosophies, how they have risen to high levels of success, and how they are now leveraging their Enneagram power to continue their growth journeys. I am your host, Linda John, executive coach and certified Enneagram practitioner, and we are broadcasting from the Tucson Business RadioX studios located in the Stewart Title Company building on Broadway Boulevard in sunny Tucson, Arizona. Today, we welcome two special guests to the show, both executive leaders of the Arizona Enneagram Association, also known as AEA. Erlina Edwards is the president of the board of the AEA and has an extensive executive background in operational human resource leadership, executive coaching, and business facilitation, all focused on driving growth, innovation, and profit for her clients. Erlina is a certified Enneagram teacher of the narrative tradition and has also earned certifications from several other Enneagram schools. She is also currently a member of internationally recognized Enneagram expert Dr. Deborah Egerton's inaugural cohort pursuing certification in diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism utilizing the Enneagram. Also joining us is Jay Andres, Executive Director of the Arizona Enneagram Association. Jay is a certified Enneagram professional of the narrative tradition as well, and a certified life coach, and is one of the 10 founders of the Arizona Enneagram Association, having served on the AEA board for 6 years prior to becoming the AEA Executive Director. Jay has lived and worked internationally, having been a Peace Corps volunteer in Thailand, and worked for 7 years with USAID in Zambia and Rwanda. She holds a degree in psychology, as well as a Master of Business Administration degree. Welcome to the podcast, Erlina and Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to a great, rich conversation around the Enneagram with you two professionals today. Let's start with Erlina. Can you tell us a little bit about your development as a professional leader overall? What has been your career path, and what leadership philosophies have supported your success?
So I started off my career in odd jobs, actually, but I landed into an employment agency that was actually looking for executives for Wall Street. And as a result of working with a client, ITT, I was placing so many people in ITT, they thought it was better if they hired me. So I went to ITT and have been fortunate since then to land in a few other technology-driven environments, and I expanded my leadership capabilities over the years, coming, of course, out of recruitment and going into different parts of HR until I got the full spectrum of HR and was catapulted in leadership positions. So in my last position, it was very interesting because I went from large companies like ITT, PeopleSoft, Intuit, and then I went into a private equity, a small company where we started off, or I went into the company when it was about just about 11 million. And we grew that business from 11 million to almost 600 million. And then it got sold. So that is a completely different experience from working in a large company when you're driving the growth of a company with a private equity firm, because they do definitely need their profits back pretty quickly. And then, so I think that has been like the bulk of my experience on the HR side. It was interesting. I didn't mention it, but, I originally was in seminary. And so I graduated from seminary and then, went into corporate life after I realized that I didn't think I was the right person for the pulpit. But I have used that background along with the Enneagram and other tools to really help navigate me in a corporate setting with the understanding that in the business world, it's really about growth, profitability, and operational excellence.
Yes. That's just a really diverse background that you really can use the Enneagram now in a lot of different realms and genres, from
Absolutely.
spiritual to corporate to self-help and all of that. It's amazing.
Yes, this is true.
That's great. So you spent all those years in corporate America and building businesses, having started off with the seminary. How did you get to where you are today?
Well, I spent all of those years actually kind of in corporate life, but always have been involved with the Enneagram community, with the Enneagram, really being foundational in helping grow in self-awareness, because it does expand one's way of really understanding other people and to kind of meet people where they are. And I think that my success overall in corporate life has been able to really look at a situation, look at a person, and actually meet them where they are, which I think is really the undertones of my success. Mm-hmm. And that's due to, I think, the exploring all kinds of human dynamic tools. But the Enneagram, without a doubt, is just superior from my perspective in really helping you to kind of really understand. Sorry about that, but in really trying to understand all kinds of human dynamics. So that's a little bit of how I got to where I am today.
Fantastic. Jay, same question for you. Tell us about your development as a professional leader. What has been your career path and what leadership philosophies have supported your success?
I don't have a clear path. My path in life has been quite choppy, I would say. A lot of that had to do with my first marriage. In going overseas to work was at a time when I had just finished my master's degree. I was working for Motorola in sales. And this opportunity came to work internationally, which we couldn't pass up. And so when we got back from all of that, I did work for a time in that family's business, which was in the medical arena. But the marriage didn't last. And so then I went another direction. And that took me down a path of entrepreneurial ventures for a while. And then where things sort of started solidifying for me was when a friend of mine invited me to go to an introductory Enneagram presentation that was being done by actually one of the women who helped found the AEA eventually, Linda Frazee.
Oh, that's great.
Linda and I became very good friends and we started working together. She interestingly had a contact at the Maricopa County Court working with the Superior Court judges and their staff. And I joined her in that. I got certified and I joined her in that contract where we worked for just up until recently, actually. So that got me involved in the Enneagram. And we also both became founders of the Arizona Enneagram Association. I guess the pattern that's followed me throughout my life that eventually led me here is one of, very deep interest in psychology. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was my undergraduate degree. I kept going back between biological sciences and psychological interests. I have a strong line to 7, Linda. So my interests have always been very broad, and yes. And that's a good thing and a bad thing both, because it's been hard for me to narrow my focus in my life. But the Enneagram sort of did that. It brought in that psychological interest again and got me back into that arena. And so personal development, a drive to understand, I think that's been with me all of my life. My type is 5. And so underlying pretty much everything is a very strong drive to understand at a deep level.
Right.
Ultimately, what is the meaning of being here in this human life? Mm-hmm. And so that has led to an interest in metaphysics, in spirituality, and in psychology. And in the Enneagram, certainly, I think all 3 of those things meet very well. So, I sort of grokked it at my first introduction to it, I was like, I just got it. I found my type pretty easily.
Mhm.
And I just started working in it right away. And I just, it's been life-changing.
Yeah. Well, we always say you don't find the Enneagram finds you. And I found that over and over with people that I've been working with is it sometimes just shows up at the perfect time in our lives and makes so much sense. And it sounds like you had a similar experience, that you were very much ready for it and found the passion in it right away.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's so great. You were sharing with me a story about one of your favorite projects with the Enneagram, working with the judicial system. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting venture because at that time there was a woman who had been hired by the courts to head up what was called the Judicial Formation Program to counteract what had been coined as black robe disease, because the judges, due to their positions, become quite isolated or can become quite isolated. And so it turned out that she happened to know the Enneagram.
Mm-hmm.
And so she found Linda as a person who, was presenting the Enneagram in business and could use business language with the judges.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how it got started. And we did workshops, we did coaching. Ultimately, we did a judicial observation program, which was to film judicial officers on the bench and give them feedback on their demeanor. Of which the Enneagram was an option. It wasn't mandatory, but if they were open to that, it gave us additional information that we could use when we were viewing them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fascinating. It was fascinating and such a wonderful, appreciative group of people to work with.
Oh,
and so, yeah.
Similar to what we were just visiting with Erlina, is the Enneagram can really drop into so many areas and aspects of business life, personal life, spiritual life. It's just an amazing tool. Thank you so much for sharing that background. Erlina, I'm going to bounce back to you. Specifically, how did the Enneagram find you? And let's start with that.
Well, I mean, yes, the Enneagram definitely does find you. I have a strong wing to 5, and so I do explore a lot as well. I was in a pretty difficult relationship at the time that I found the Enneagram, and fortunately, I went to one of the earlier sessions that Helen Palmer was doing in Berkeley, California.
Okay.
And then, the rest is history. You hear something there, and you have an experience, and it just takes you back to the next, and to the next, and to the next. And I found that by learning the content of the Enneagram, as I was managing employee relations cases, especially employee relations cases that were very sensitive, especially around discrimination or, sexual harassment and things like that, it was really very helpful
Mm-hmm.
in helping me to understand pretty much the dynamics of what was going on. And I think the other part of it too, because I'm a type 4 on the Enneagram, it really led me out of that extreme emotionalism, that can be very present in a 4 if a 4 is not really developed well.
Mm-hmm.
So that became more of the foundation and how I got through it, also helping me to end a very difficult marriage. Also, I have 2 9 daughters and a 6 son, a counterphobic 6.
Okay.
And in the development of myself and the understanding a little bit more of their lens in terms of how they see the world, it really helped me in my relationship with my children. And I think even going into my next marriage, because I did marry again, finding a more healthy person by really understanding those differences between when a person is emotionally and psychologically healthy from when they're not, and being able to discern that. And the Enneagram gives you those lenses.
Absolutely.
To be able to see those pieces.
Yeah.
And you can understand when you're working, fortunately for me, having sit at the table with the C-suite and really knowing how to navigate those choppy waters when all it is to them is about driving revenue and bringing that growth in. It's a whole different world when you're able to know what the expectation is from that person or how to respond back to that person based on their type.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
When I was talking with you earlier about some of your qualities or, personal philosophies on success, I really liked how you talked about this transition when you went from this corporate bottom line world to just really focusing on having a life of your own personal development and a path of becoming a better employee, leader, wife, mom, human being. Can
Mhm.
you can you share some of that with our podcast audience as well?
Yeah, well, I think, a couple of the philosophies that I wrote down was, making certain that my actions don't harm other people. And when you're managing an environment, you have a tendency sometimes to be in relationships that expect you to really be about them, but you have to remember that you're managing the whole system
Mm-hmm.
and you're responsible in looking at it from that angle. I think becomes a key of the way you have to learn how to walk in life if you want to lead something.
Yes,
Uh,
holistic approach.
yeah, exactly. And then my magic question, and Jay can appreciate this, is, are we getting better?
Uh,
So in other words, we're doing that. But what I'm looking into now, because you were mentioning earlier my interest in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I would not have thought that that would have been my path because of my interest from a spiritual standpoint of view too. But I recently became involved in moderating some programs for policing, reimagining the police force, as a result of a number of things that have been going on. And I
yes.
thought the diversity and inclusion would really help me in, finding my own inner skills and things that I needed to learn about myself as it pertained to race. My family is from Panama, so there's a multiracial component within my life that I really had to kind of figure out. And going through that program has really been kind of pulling that forward. But I think the Enneagram would be just an extraordinary tool to bring into dialogue, reimagining the police and helping people understand their Enneagram type. So I'm looking right now to marry both of those. In addition, I'm doing some studying on the art of dialogue, as well as taking Dr. Egerton's program and then wanting to bring that to the Enneagram because I see that that is just a body of work that I'm really interested in. I recently interviewed a number of police chiefs and people who are involved in the municipalities of policing.
Yeah.
And I was struck how much pain they're in. I know the pain of people of color because I live in that world. And I'm wanting to find that sweet spot in the center. How do we find the balance in the center to be able to have a higher level of dialogue around, recognizing that we're all in the same situation and we really need to figure out how to become coherent in it rather than staying in these massive states of fragmentation.
Yeah.
So that's the direction that I'm going.
That is fascinating work. And it just shows, again, how the Enneagram can have applications for life-changing initiatives, societal changing initiatives. And kudos to you on that direction. I did have the honor of sitting in one of the uh, programs that you did around that and brought a police chief in and shared something that was just fascinating. And honestly got my wheels spinning on how I could help build upon that too. So I want to congratulate you for the work that you're doing in that area. I think it's really important work.
Yeah. And if I might mention, when I did my internship with the Enneagram, because in the narrative tradition, you're supervised, for your certification process. And I was with PeopleSoft at the time, and we used the Enneagram for communications with a team. And that team was able to exponentially deliver much greater work as a result of the team going through the dynamics of finding out who was on the team and how the team was made up and how they could better support each other. So I just want to, just go back to that point in the conversation of how powerful this tool can be in the business environment on multiple levels.
Yeah, I've seen it time and time again working with teams in corporations as well. And it's people are just in disbelief. The people who are in it doing it, people that have worked together for 15 years and thought they knew the members of their team have these aha moments that are just so powerful. So that's great. So you've alluded a little bit to your types. We've alluded a little bit to the narrative tradition of the Enneagram, and I'm so excited to do a deeper dive into all of that. So when we come back from a short break, we will dig deep into more Enneagram discussions with Erlina Edwards and Jay Andres, successful thought leaders in building conscious community through the Enneagram and executive leaders of the Arizona Enneagram Association. And we will be right back.
This podcast episode is sponsored by Linda John Consulting, and I'm speaking today with her. Tell me about Linda John Consulting, Linda, and why people are attracted to your business.
You bet. Well, we are a coaching and consulting business. We have a wide array of services, including executive coaching, strategic planning, team development programs, really all focused on individual leadership growth and organizational development. And so at a time like now when times are tough and a lot of organizations are going through a lot of change, we have the services that can help people get back on track and really grow.
Well, corporations report that executive coaching is a key to making their businesses thrive. What makes your coaching practice unique? And why would someone choose Linda John Consulting?
Well, I love to use an assessment tool known as the Enneagram, which is a personality assessment, puts people into 9 different main types and teaches them integration strategies for how to be the best version of themselves. I do have a lot of programs focused on other strategies as well, but this really is one of our key success strategies with Linda John Consulting, and people really are seeing the benefits from these programs.
Okay, Linda, so what are the best ways for people to contact with you?
Best way is just to go to lindajohnconsulting.com and click on set up a consultation, and we'll be back in touch and we'll get you started. We are visiting with Erlina Edwards and Jay Andres, successful thought leaders in building conscious community through the Enneagram and executive leaders of the Arizona Enneagram Association. Erlina and Jay, it is time for the big reveal of your types, which you've already sort of given away, but we want to go deeper. So I'd like each of you to share your type and a little bit about what your favorite features of your type are and why. So Jay, let's start with you.
Okay, well, my type is 5. I have a strong 4 wing, and as I mentioned, a strong connection to 7. And my subtype, if you know what that is 1-to-1. So, the favorite thing about your type, it's not what we normally focus on, so that can be a little dicey. And
leave it to a type 7 to take the optimistic view of this.
Yeah, I know, but see, 5s don't toot their own horn, and if you grew up in North Dakota, you really don't. So those two things together say, what can I say here? Well, I think a positive feature of 5 is this thing that I mentioned earlier, is this quest to understand. I think it can also make us a little annoying sometimes because there can be a lot of questions. Not in the way that a 6 questions in order to get certainty, but out of curiosity. And so, there can be a lot of, well, I wonder, or why, or what about this?
Right.
But it comes from that drive to just figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
There's an objectivity that I think there's giving people latitude to be themselves. Even if even if it's not there in the moment, let's say that, if reactivity comes up and hijacks me, I do think I come back pretty quickly, even in a situation like that, to being able to see the other person's point of view, or to account for other ways of seeing things.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the strengths.
Mm-hmm.
There's, any strength can become a challenge. So, but that being able to set the emotions aside and stay rational can be certainly a strength. Obviously, it can be overused as well, and that's part of the work of the Enneagram, is to bring all three centers online. Because as you know, we tend to use one over the others, and of course, my fave is the head.
Right. You're thinking all the time.
Yeah, if you can just, it's safe up in your head where you can just think your way through things, and you don't have to feel your way through things, and that can be a lot safer. So objectivity, understanding, self-reliance. I'm a low maintenance person. If you're in a relationship with me, I take care of myself, and I don't place a lot of demands on other people, and I think the world's, of course, I think everybody should be that way. We'd all be a lot better off if everybody just took care of themselves, right?
Great.
So those are the three that come to mind offhand.
And you referenced the 4 wing and also line to 7. How do those show up for you? And go ahead and maybe do a little description of the types for those that might not be familiar with all the Enneagram types. So the 4 and the 7.
Certainly. So 5 is in the head center, and but sitting right to the right of me, if you're looking at the circle, is moving counterclockwise, is the 4 in the heart center. And so what the 4 brings to the 5 is a little bit more comfort with emotions. So first of all, being female brings that, and then the 4 brings more of that. And so also more creativity, more interest in creative pursuits rather than, straight science, although science has been very interesting to me too, because of that line to 7.
Right.
All kinds of things are interesting. So the 4 brings in more heart, more comfort with emotion, more focus on doing something different or something unique. I mean, that's been very strong in my life. I can get sucked into the what's missing thing. My 4 was pretty closely guarded secret throughout my life, I would say. Like where it came out would be, I don't know if you remember Joni Mitchell's Blue CD.
Yes.
But, I called it my Depressed Express music. So I could put that on and wallow in sadness and melancholy. And so I love fall, is because of the, it's such a melancholy time. And, it's sweet melancholy of 4. But it was my time in pretty closely guarded secret that I spent time there, right?
Got it. Yeah.
It's been there. The line to 7 is, I like to keep my options open. It's hard for me to eliminate options. It's the going to possibilities. I like, it's, 5 is there's a lot of, there's kind of a dry wit in 5. But I also just like the fun and kind of silliness of 7. And there's a playfulness, and I can tell when I'm in a group of 7s, I just get I can get carried away with that energy.
Sure.
Just, join in. And so it's almost a typing thing for me if I feel my body going in that direction. So this is 7 energy. I know 7 energy.
Yeah.
And that was sort of my role in the family also, is just to kind of play that part.
All right. Thank you for that, Erlina. And let's hear about your type and what your favorite aspects of your type are.
Yeah, so I think Jay was a little bit kind of in the 4 discussion.
Right.
I will say that healthy fours, and I'll clarify that because, fours are always, they can see what's missing. And as a result of that, they can kind of get pretty emotional and depressive and melancholic. But when they're healthy, I think there's a whole different side that actually shows up. I would say that fours have the capacity to, like, I can deal with things that are emotionally very heavy, and not necessarily take it on. So, even from an HR standpoint of view, I was involved with a lot of heavy kind of cases, in which I could kind of navigate. So I do think that they have that level of intelligence to it. We can get to the heart of it pretty quickly.
Right.
In terms of like what Jay was talking about, we have subtypes, and my subtype is self-pres. And so the self-pres type, very much like a 5, I would think I'm pretty sufficient in being able to kind of take care of myself and, kind of keep things going. I have that kind of quality. But there is also a very deep love for aesthetics,
Yeah.
and for beauty, and the order of things. And so this is where I kind of go to my type 1. I'm that perfectionistic kind of person, always looking to, see how we can make things better. My husband is a 5 with a 4 wing, and I'm a 4 with a 5 wing. So aesthetics and the beauty, and we're both self-pres, so that works out really well.
Yeah.
And you can't tell from this room, but if you go in my house, there's at least 100 pieces of art on the wall. So we really have a great passion for art. And that's another piece, I think, that most people really like being in the companies of 4, because they kind of bring that beauty to it.
Yes, definitely that artful connection and deep love of aesthetics,
Right. Yeah. Some of your greatest writers
Yes.
are 4s, your greatest dancers, people in the entertainment world, they're really just in that category. And I would say that, that there is a flair on, like I said, not only getting to the heart of the matter, but I've been known to, like, emotionally pop people with a single question or a single answer to something, and they never be the same. And I don't know where that comes from. That just comes up and out on people.
That's
from
fantastic.
time to time. I think it's a gift of the 4, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm interested that you, Erlina, you and Jay share types from 5 with a 4 wing and 4 with a 5 wing. Have you done some self-awareness on how that shows up for you as you work together to lead the Arizona Enneagram Association? And what's that look like for you?
I'll let Jay, take this one. I don't know that we've done that consciously, but we have been able to find our rhythm with each other. And I would say that we know how to support each other. And because we are 4s and 5s, this is why you're, working, having a type 7 is very important, because we need the balance of those centers of intelligence to really help us, bring things forward. So as Jay mentioned, 5s are thinking types, and, 4s are not necessarily, they don't move necessarily toward things. And so that can cause problems when you're trying to grow something. So you have to bring that energy around you of other people who have the capacity to be able to kind of expand things. But I think we found our rhythm together. What would you say, Jay?
I would explain it.
Well, I think it helps to have people from different centers. So you've got the head and the heart represented. We both have a connection, of course, to numbers in the body center, but at least we have 2 of the 3 centers covered. I think that one of the things that I've noticed is that, I have a naturally compartmentalizing mind. It's a characteristic of 5. We tend to compartmentalize things, and it's just automatic. It's not intentional.
Yeah.
And so, I might automatically I'm sending an email and I think, okay, who needs this information? and I send it, to those people who I think need the information. I might leave somebody out that I shouldn't have left out, or maybe I don't stop to go, well, who else might benefit from this? Just as an example, and it's nothing intentional. Maybe it also comes from the 5 conservation of resources. And so if this information, if you don't need this information, why would you want to be burdened with this information or an excess email? Because God, who wouldn't want an excess of anything? So it could be just an unconscious saving other people from unnecessary time and energy expended on an email they don't need to see. I don't know. It's automatic.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's helpful to have somebody go, well, we need to also include this other person. And it's like, oh yeah, sure, fine. I have no problem with that. It's just that it didn't occur to me, right?
Yeah.
And that is something that, compartmentalization is a really handy thing, and it can be really beneficial. And some people probably need to do more of it. And it can also work to your detriment. And that's one of the ways that it does. And so, and bringing in the heart, of course, if I'm too caught up in the head stuff, and maybe I don't notice that, I was going to say somebody's weeping in the corner, but that's exaggerating. Because I wouldn't notice that somebody was weeping in the corner. But figuratively speaking, maybe I don't notice the look on somebody's face if I'm caught up in getting something done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so it's always helpful to have somebody, I used to say, and I still do, that, talk to your 2s. They have the heartbeat of the organization. Well, that's also true for your 4s, and a 4 has a line to 2. So one of the beauties when we started the Arizona Enneagram Association is we had every type represented in the founding group, except for type 1. But we had a self-pressed 3 who played that role indistinguishably, and we had a lot of 1 wings flapping around. So we had the 1 covered, but it's really, really beneficial to have, if not all types, at least every center represented.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, where we balance each other out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Those are really great reflections on how that shows up in your association. So the founding board having all types covered except 1, was that pretty intentional, or was it a coincidence?
Just the way it turned out. It's just the way it turned out, and it's one reason why we thought, in hindsight, that it worked as well as it did. That and the fact that it was just in a very dedicated group of people, and most of whom are still involved in the organization all these years later. So.
Well, let's keep with that topic. I am so fascinated that you are one of the founding board members and how this all came together. Talk about the beginnings of the Arizona Enneagram Association. And once you shared that original story, I really would like you to share a little bit more about this narrative tradition that we've been mentioning along the way. And what exactly is that?
Well, the narrative is a way of learning the Enneagram from the people themselves, from the types themselves. And so, the training is done much through panels of people being interviewed, people who know their types. Because somebody else can describe a type to you, but when you hear it from the type themselves, you feel it. You get the energy of the type.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is.
And it also includes a lot of what we call process work. So you're taking the information in and working with it in order to understand yourself better and to release the hold that types have on you, so that you understand you have a type, but you aren't a type. You're much more than a type.
Right.
So it's a really beautiful way to learn the Enneagram. And it just turned out that of the 10 women that came together to form the organization, 9 of us were certified teachers, and we were certified through the narrative. So we started out from that tradition. We I do want to make it clear that we are not strictly a narrative organization. We embrace all Enneagram teaching. It just so happened that that's the group that came together.
Origins, yes.
Yes, in the beginning. And there had been work going on with one of our founders, Carol Whitaker, had been bringing Enneagram trainings to the Franciscan Renewal Center here in Phoenix for many years, bringing in Helen Palmer and David Daniels. And then when that facility was no longer available for that to happen, this group of women came together, and kind of because we didn't know what we were in for, maybe, we formed a corporation, formed a nonprofit, not realizing that the form for a nonprofit is like 3,000 pages long. And we just initially did that to continue to bring in David and Helen, and to continue with what we now call our core curriculum, which was a body of work that had been developed by local Arizona teachers based on Helen Palmer's Spiritual Freedom series, that she gave a series of workshops in Phoenix over a number of years. And then the local teachers did what we call follow-on classes afterwards to continue that work, to take it deeper, to have people be able to work over a 6-week period after that, to bring the work inside and embody it and work with it further. And that became, through the efforts of local teachers, and kudos to particularly to Carol Whitaker, into bringing that into fruition, into a format that we carried on then through the AEA, which has resulted ultimately in 2 spiritual freedom retreats that we do in alternate years, working with the barriers to spiritual freedom, and then exploring spiritual freedom, experiencing spiritual freedom, in alternate years at the retreat center, Picture Rocks Retreat Center in Tucson.
Okay.
So
that's
how it happened.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of the beginnings, sounds like it was a lot of certified educators of the Enneagram that wanted to make sure that they continued the teachings. Would that be?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We didn't, there was a dedicated group of people. I mean, just beyond the teachers, there was quite a number of people who'd gone through those classes at the CASA, at the Franciscan Renewal Center. And so it was in an effort to not lose that.
Yes. Yes, that's great. Erlina, how long have you been involved with the Arizona Enneagram Association? And as the president of the board, where do you see your leadership taking the association in the coming 1 to 2 years?
Yeah, thank you. So I was involved with the Arizona Enneagram Association when they were bringing Helen and David in as primary teachers. So I've been involved with the association on and off. As they were building the nonprofit, that's when I left for my last corporate assignment with the private equity group, but immediately came back and stayed in contact with the group the whole time I was gone, by going back and forth with some of the programs that they would do on a regular basis. I think the huge value of the Arizona Enneagram Association is threefold. One is, I don't know of any, well, let me preface this by saying, of course, I'm attached to this, but the Arizona Enneagram Association is one of the finest learning institutions for the Enneagram on the planet. And as Jay pointed out, because it started with 9 teachers who were steeped with some of the 2 primary leaders of the Enneagram work in the US before it really took off, they have preserved the integrity of that teaching for as long as it's been in existence, and it's going into its 13th year. The other part of it is the quality of the teachings, and we have always spent very conscious timing on the design of what an experience is going to be like for the user.
Sure. Yeah.
So we understand that there are people in the beginning, there are people in the middle of learning the Enneagram, and then there are, of course, those that are advanced teachers. And the content of our learning have all three levels of programming available for a person who's interested in coming in. And in fact, we teach the foundation class only one time a year, and it's coming up. So I just wanted to kind of pull a plug into that. So
Yes.
and I think going into 21 right now, we will stick with that. There's a lot of things going on in neurobiology that has really validated the Enneagram on
Right.
steroids now. And here again, because we stay steep in the learning of the Enneagram, we follow the science along with how the Enneagram is unfolding and continue to, bring that work forward to the people who participate with us. We definitely want to grow the groups of people who are actually kind of coming in. We see that there are more people interested in the Enneagram now than ever before. So we will concentrate this year on growing the base of people that we are bringing in.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a big deal. We'll be updating our website and,
Right.
definitely updating, going out into particular topics like the one that I spoke about, for example, finding the right themes to be able to bring to people to grow that level of awareness.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And I'd like to piggyback just quickly on that to say that, we do have different tracks of learning. So if someone may want to go down the spiritual freedom path, and someone else may not. So we offer a variety of topics. We have a relationship series. All good relationships begin with you. So no matter what work you do, you're doing work on relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So just, we're always adding. We still bring in outside speakers. We have very fine local teachers.
Mm-hmm.
All of our work, though, is focused on taking people deeper. So this is not just it can be fun, certainly, but it's not just a parlor game, and it's not about falling deeper into your type. It's really whatever we do, it's focused on helping you, cut some doors and windows in the box that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And expanding your view and your capacity for broader experience and deeper understanding of self and others, and the ability to manage yourself, manage your own reactivity, so that we can have more compassion in the world and better, deeper conversations. And I do believe that this is a tool that can help us heal this incredible chasm we have in our world. If we can just get this out to enough people.
Well said.
Beautifully said. It's so true. And the learning piece of it is so valuable. I consider myself a lifelong learner, but I also consider the Enneagram a lifelong learning journey.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
As much as I've been involved with it and coaching with it, I always learn more by
deeper and deeper.
Oh, deeper and deeper. And that's really the fascinating part of it. And one other point I wanted to make to something you said, Erlina, and that's the importance of the neuroscience, the neurobiology around this. And especially when we're talking about the business world, the corporate world, just now starting to see the value of this. I was with a group of CEOs presenting a workshop, and they wanted to know the data and the science. Like, they want the research that validates this, because they think it's pretty cool, but it can't just be sort of this out there thing. And so there's a lot of that research that's now validating the Enneagram from a scientific standpoint as well.
Yes, very much so.
Oh my gosh, the time has flown by. Quick chance for a plug on how our listeners can connect with you to get more information, get involved with the Arizona Enneagram Association.
Absolutely. Well, our website is arizonaenneagram.org. And as Erlina mentioned, we will be moving to a new site sometime in January. Same URL, but it'll be a brand new site. We're looking forward to that. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, so you can find us in all of those places. And we have everything from meetups to retreats. So there's
Fantastic.
lots going on. We have a very robust schedule plan for 2021. So I just invite everybody to check us out and find what you like.
You're
And
open.
I think if I might just say that one of the ways that people get started with us is that we do a meetup, which is just a small meeting. It has some description of the Enneagram in it, so it's actually kind of tied to the Enneagram, just to whet your appetite. And usually we do those on Thursdays, the third Thursday of the month. But if you go out and sign up for on our mailing list, you get all the information, and that's the best way to keep up with us.
Best way to get started is go out and sign up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sign up for our email list and you'll get it all.
We have tons of professionals that are available for people too, that are interested in learning more on a private maybe basis. We have a whole professional membership within the association as well.
Oh, that's great. I want to thank you both for sharing your leadership expertise and Enneagram experiences with us on the Self-Aware Leader podcast, where we talk about leveraging our Enneagram power to support continued leadership success. Best wishes to you, Erlina and Jay, as you continue to build conscious community through the Arizona Enneagram Association.
We thank you for this opportunity as well.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Linda.
Yeah. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Self-Aware Leader podcast. We will be back soon with another dynamic guest, ready to hear more stories of successful leaders sharing their experiences of leveraging their Enneagram power to accelerate their leadership success. Until then, I am Linda John, host of the Self-Aware Leader podcast, signing off from the Tucson RadioX studios located in the Stewart Title Company building on Broadway Boulevard in Tucson, Arizona. So long.
Join us again on the Business RadioX network for the Self-Aware Leader podcast.